People are always going to try to influence the United States of America, whether they're allies of ours or whether they're enemies of ours. But again, when I open up the pages of Time magazine and I see that there's a literal foreign influence campaign being funded to tank the very deal that I was pursuing, and oh, by the way, many of the people who were receiving that money were actually attacking me in completely dishonest ways, my response to that is, well, go to hell.
Interesting. I wonder if he's going to say the same thing now to Jared Kushner and Stephen Witkoff, because Ryan Grimm's Drop Site News reporting today that the Iranians sent Vance a secret note saying, hey, you got to pull these guys from the negotiations. They're self-dealing. Here's the headline. Iran sent message to JD Vance warning that Kushner and Witkoff were abusing their inside access to negotiations. So Ryan, before I get to some of your reporting here and telling all the facts of the story, just quickly there, that is kind of extraordinary. Have you ever seen one side give a warning to the other side in a negotiation that, hey, your guys might actually not be in favor of peace? Like your own negotiators might be betraying you.
Well, in negotiations, people are always looking for, who in their counterparty is like more willing to make a deal and who's not. And before we suggest that the Iranians are like these upstanding, virtuous advocates of transparency, they actually told the mediators, and we reported this in the story too, that their estimate was that kind of Trump's circle, not just Witkoff and Kushner, but Trump's circle more broadly, had profited upwards of $9 billion from market manipulation throughout this process. And then they said, and so therefore we deserve 50% of it, which is pretty funny. And maybe it's maybe that's their opening bid. Yeah, they're willing to come back for maybe 30% or something. But exactly. Yeah.
So look, not exactly moral high ground when you say, can I get half of that corruption?
We deserve half.
And since we're actual reporters and actually in journalism, we look at all of it skeptically, the American side, the Israeli side, and the Iranian side. Of course, everybody has an agenda. So let's tell you what Ryan and Jeremy Scahill reported, and then we'll discuss, because there's three different parts to their objections on Kushner and Witkoff. So let's get started here. They wrote, the Iranians warned Vance that the continued presence of President Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law Jared Kushner would undermine the chance of turning the June 17 framework into an enduring deal, a senior Iranian official told Drop Site. In the message, according to the official, Iran conveyed to Vance that the pair were more interested in exploiting insider knowledge of the negotiations to profit in financial markets than they were in reaching a deal. So then they explain, this is back in April, The Guardian reported, 16 bets made $100,000 each, accurately predicting the timing of the U.S. airstrikes against Iran on February 27th. Later, a single user would make over $550,000 after betting that the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would topple just moments before his assassination by Israeli forces. On April 7th, right before Donald Trump announced a temporary ceasefire with Iran, traders bet $950 million that oil prices would come down, and they did. So now that's from a different story from The Guardian, so they're not saying that Witkoff and Kushner did all that, but someone is definitely doing all of that, and we're wondering if, and apparently the Iranians are wondering if Witkoff and Kushner is part of that. So back to the Drop Site reporting. In the weeks leading up to the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, the official said Iran presented written documentation to mediators of what it characterized as evidence that individuals close to President Trump were abusing the Iran war and diplomatic developments to manipulate financial markets. An anonymous Iranian official said, even before the Islamabad talks kicked off in April, we had already sent multiple messages to Trump through the Pakistanis, warning them about Witkoff's overall destructive role in the previous negotiation. So now that's to the point of their potential corruption. Now there's a second point, which is they're dumbasses and don't know what they're doing, and they're lying about what's happening, and we're wondering, the Iranians are wondering if they're purposely sabotaging the negotiations. So to that point, Ryan and Scahill explained, Witkoff and Kushner showed up with no subject area or nuclear experts and appeared oblivious to the technical aspects of the negotiating the nuclear issue. Iranian negotiators presented an outline of their existing stockpile of enriched uranium and assessed that their quote, unbelievable level of flexibility formed the basis of what Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said on February 25th could be, quote, a historic opportunity to strike an unprecedented agreement. But Witkoff went on Fox News afterwards and said Iran's going to build nuclear weapons. And they're like, what? So the Iranian negotiators said to us, this is according to Witkoff, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that they could make 11 nuclear bombs, and that was the beginning of their negotiating stance, Witkoff told Fox News on March 3rd, while defending the decision to attack Iran in the middle of negotiations. So the Iranians are like, wait, we told you we're going to give you an unprecedented offer on taking away our nuclear program. You go and tell people in America that we're building 11 nuclear weapons. What the hell is this? So that's a fair question. And then you get to this third possibility, and this is from Axios back on March 4th. Interesting piece of reporting from Barak Ravid here. A U.S. official said Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's advisor and son-in-law Jared Kushner talk almost every day to Netanyahu, to the director of Mossad David Barnea, and to other Israeli officials, and that regardless of ups and downs in the past, the coordination over the last month was very close. Real quick, let's talk about something that holds way too many businesses back. You've got a great idea, you've got momentum, but you're stuck because you don't have the right person to execute on it. And hiring, full-time recruiting takes weeks you don't have. Here's a tip, you don't have to do it all yourself. Upwork is a one-stop platform to find, hire, and pay expert freelancers across web and software development, data and analytics, marketing, business operations, and more. Upwork helps grow your business by giving you fast access to specialized talent across more than 125 categories, so you can fill skill gaps, launch projects faster, and scale support up or down without committing to full-time headcount. You can browse profiles, review past work, and get help scoping the role so you can hire with confidence and get started quickly. With Business Plus, you can access the top 1% of talent on Upwork, and with AI-powered shortlisting, you'll get matched to the right freelancer in under 6 hours. No endless searching required. Upwork also cuts down operational hassle by handling things like contracts and payments in one place, so you can spend more time running the business. Thousands of growing businesses already trust Upwork to hire flexible, high-quality freelance talent for everything from one-off projects to ongoing support. It's free to sign up, and posting a job is easy. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com. So, Ryan, is it that they're self-dealing and they don't really care about the peace negotiations and they're just trying to make money off this thing? Is it that they're actually coordinating with the Israelis to destroy peace negotiations? What's going on here?
I think it's all of those things. Like I think he's genuinely an idiot on that one piece of information, because otherwise he wouldn't have paraded his ignorance publicly. Like if he, let's say, because some people have said, well, that was tactical on his part. He was never serious about a deal, and so he basically lied to Trump about what the Iranians had said. But why would you need to do that? If Trump was always going to go to war, then he can just go to war. He doesn't need his special envoy saying stupid things publicly that don't make any sense. And think about it. If you're the Iranians and you're offering to give up and downblend your enriched uranium and your highly enriched uranium, you're obviously going to tell the other side precisely what you have. Like, of course, how can you offer to get rid of it if you don't tell them what you have? Like, if they didn't tell them what they had, Witkoff would have been like, they're being, devious, sneaky Iranians and, not sharing with us what they have. So I do think that there's some genuine stupidity at play there, but I think also I think they were working obviously very closely with Netanyahu and Mossad, as they say. There's no reason to think they were lying about that. And also making, enormous amounts of money on the timing of the different announcements that were coming. And we should never forget what kind of a deal the Iranians were offering, because you alluded to that at the very top there. At the end of February, they were basically offering to get rid of their entire nuclear program, as well as make significant concessions on lots of other things that Trump wanted around proxies and other things. And all they wanted was some level of sanctions relief. And that is the kind of thing that could be snapped back and taken away if you think that they're not abiding by the terms of the agreement. Nowhere in that notice is we're going to control and charge fees for the Strait of Hormuz. Like, what was available to us on February before we killed thousands of people and lost our own American service members and sent the world economy into a tailspin is so much better than what is available to us now, and which keeps getting worse probably every day. So
this is a harsh question, but it really is worth asking in terms of the technical definition of this word. And I don't mean to imply any of the consequences that flow from it, but if Kushner and Witkoff are working with the Israelis and Trump actually told them go make a peace deal, and then they took orders from the Israelis to kill the peace deal, isn't that treason?
So what's interesting is that this class of people, which I think is aptly referred to as the Epstein class, or the other people is called the Davos class. The people who, these are people who do not actually feel any connection to any particular nation state, any government. Like, they don't feel a sense of like, oh, I am American, or I am even Israeli, or I'm Swiss, or I'm French. Like, these are people, they belong to Davos. They belong to the Epstein class. They belong to this multinational kind of just 0.1% that just bounces around from London to New York to Miami to Dubai to Tel Aviv. And so the idea of being disloyal to a country requires them to have any sense of fundamental loyalty to a particular country. Now, the fact that Witkoff is literally the envoy for the White House, like, it's his job to reach a deal, suggests that he's supposed to have some level of loyalty. Kushner's not even he's just a citizen. He's not even a government official at this point. But I think ultimately they're doing what Trump wanted him to do. I think Trump wasn't serious about these negotiations in February. He wanted to kill the Ayatollah and all the top Iranian leaders. And so I think in that sense, they were carrying out the orders of the American president. So in that sense, it's not actually treasonous.
Yeah, and if Trump,
unfortunately, just doing what they were told to do by an idiot.
Yeah, I want to be absolutely clear. If Trump told them to ruin the peace negotiations, then it's definitely not treason. Right. It's just,
which I think he did. He did. Like, because mid-February, Netanyahu tells him, makes his presentation in the Situation Room, and within days of that, Trump has approved the attack, and they're just kind of waiting for the opportunity. So those negotiations that happened between mid-February and end of February were totally fake.
Yeah, last thing, Ryan. So we talked about the possible Israeli connection, and then there's the profiting, right? And today, coincidentally, Wall Street Journal breaks another story, Trump media to sell faster access to president's social posts. So to your point about the Davos class, so you can now buy quicker access to Donald Trump's true social posts. If you're not sophisticated in the world of markets, you might think, who the hell cares if you get Trump's dumbass posts a minute earlier than anyone? But of course, the whole point of that is very literally corruption. There is no other point, because that means you could trade on the markets based on that insider information before the public gets it. So when you combine these two stories, Witkoff and Kushner self-dealing potentially while during the peace negotiations, and certainly Kushner's been self-dealing during both terms and getting gobs of money from the Gulf countries, et cetera. And now you've got Trump basically saying, if you're corrupt and want to do insider trading, Hear ye, come here and pay me, and I'll give you insider information. This is an impossible question, but once he's out of office, is there any chance that these guys are going to get prosecuted for the most brazen, over-the-top corruption I've ever seen in my life?
They'll all be pardoned, but there are still state laws on the books about corruption. So you could imagine, and maybe they get prosecuted in some other country as well, because they're committing crimes all over the world. But yeah, the charging to get Trump's truths early is the most kind of over the top and obvious admission that he's intentionally moving markets. They've proven that you can make billions based on Trump's word. Which if you really want to do the insider trading, you have to call him and get it more directly. But if you're just a regular Goldman Sachs trader, then you pay the gigantic. I don't know what they're going to charge yet. It'll be funny to find out what it is. I'm sure they could charge in the thousands of dollars per month or more, and the traders would kind of have to do it.
Oh yeah,
it's moving billions of dollars around.
Yeah, they could charge almost anything they want. They could charge in the millions, and people will still do it because if you have that kind of insider information, you're going to make tens of millions, hundreds of millions, maybe billions.
You don't, you're going to lose.
Yeah, or you're going to lose. That's right. And so it almost forces all the markets to do insider trading. And they're like, I know you got to twist our arm, but this is corruption on steroids.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.